What I'm now going to progress on to is to demonstrate a very standard process of creating a job from start to finish. It'll just be showing you the very basics of a job card without the nuances, but it will give you at least a feel for the components that make up a job. So we'll load up a job card, and you have to understand that there are many different workflows for creating jobs, and this will be just one of those workflows. So what I'm going to show you now may not actually be realistic in the real world, but at least gives you a good idea of how a job is created. So typically what we'll do is we will want to create a new job. We're going to press the new button, and the first thing we have to do is we have to identify who the job is for. So that's what the first tab is for. So if I know who the customer is, I can just type in their ID, or if I'm not really sure, if I know that it starts with a C, for example, I just happen to have a C, that's not very good. So this will then list me all of the customers that begin with a C. Let's just say it's whatever, this particular customer here. So this is my search screen searching for a customer. It brings in then the customer details, the contact information, phone numbers and so on. Plus it also brings in the site note. Remember I mentioned the customer, it was a site note, or a customer note, and it's going to put it there against, that's the internal note of this particular customer. So I can read that. It's brought in the billing details, which happen to be the same, but I could go and change that to be somebody else to do the billing for this particular job if I wanted to. And had I set up separate billing details against this customer, it would automatically put those billing details in here. And I have the internal customer note of that particular billing customer. Thirdly, it puts in the site information. This is where the job is going to be done at. And I could change that as well to be something completely different to the customer. I can see the address, I can see the customer's note, and I can see the site note, which was another field against that customer record, specifically for sites only. And I have then down here my site contact phone number information, so I know who to go see when I go on site. If I don't want the site to be an actual customer record, but it's just a one-off address that I want to just type in, if I blank out the site ID, I can then go and type in an address, for example, and save that, and it's quite happy for me to do that. We have the ability to have automatic job numbering, which or manual job numbering as well. So that where it's got manual job numbering set up at the moment, so what you just saw there quickly was it was popping up asking me to type in a job number. But if I leave it 0, it assigns the next automatically one there. Why would we want manual job numbering? Because we may have the situation where these people still have written books in the field with numbers on them, and they want to be able to match it up to those particular numbers, for example. So that's our who the job is for tab. The next tab along is what do we need to do? The why tab. Why? What's this job about? And so on. So we can see when the job come in. We have a bunch of reference numbers in there. We may have a customer order number that we can type in there, a job reference number from a book. Once again, for example, there's a whole bunch of different fields. You can change the labels of these, use these for whatever purposes you like. Spare fields are very handy for many situations. We can give the job a name. It's a replace chiller, and the replace the fuses, and the service requested, which is a lot longer, is no power, suspect fuse blown, or something like that. So that's a big long description of there. I can then go and there's various other things. I might have a department code. It could be in air conditioning, it could be for the residential or commercial for reporting purposes. I could have a priority code, high, medium, low, or whatever priority. That also hooks into escalation. It hooks into escalation, which is in terms of warning you as the job gets closer and closer, the colors change in the job center. We could have for priority codes, different response times that we can set up in here. So it'll automatically calculate the due time. You might have a 2-hour response or 4-hour response or something like that. You may have a special service fee. High priority, you might charge an extra $50 upfront service fee, for example. You can put in special office hours for high priority jobs so that the standard hours don't count. Maybe you extend to 10 o'clock for special high priority type jobs, and that'll affect the escalation calculations. And you can also include whether, from the escalation calculation point of view, we include Saturdays and Sundays in the calculation of 2-hour response. So for example, if you don't have any of that set and it's 9 to 5 and it's 4 o'clock in the afternoon and you have a 3-hour response, it's 4 o'clock on Friday, it'll calculate 11 a.m. on Monday as being the 3-hour response. Whereas you could adjust that calculation by setting the various office times and Saturdays and Sundays in here. Once again, only used by some companies. We can set a status code. This is a very important field. The status code takes you through the logical steps that a job goes through, from being a new job in the system to being unallocated to someone, to being allocated, to being commenced, to being completed, to being invoiced, and so on. And we use that status code very heavily within TSM, and there are certain automatic trigger points in which that status can change, which I'll go through with you later. We can set a job type for reporting purposes, the default location that the stock will come out of. So for example, it could be out of van 1 or van 2 or whatever it happens to be, and typically that will get set when we choose the employee, if they've got a default location set against them. We can set a default labour type if it's different from our standard setup labour type for this particular job. We can, and so on. So I'm just going to stop at this point here. The only other, yes, this will be a standard job. So I'm going to stop at this point here, and we've created job 81486. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump into our job center, which is a list of jobs based on various criteria, and this is my rubbish filters, so it's really not going to help, but I'll just say it's our open jobs, and I need something better, all open jobs, there we go. And what I might do is turn on some colors, because it looks prettier. I don't have any colors set up, very funny. Okay, so there's my job 81456 there. It's not been assigned to anybody. And then what I want to do is so this would be used by an internal scheduler to list the open jobs, the unstarted jobs, the jobs due for today, the whatever criteria they would use. And in our standard demonstration, I would actually have set up a set of data. I might get that for later to use that. This will go hand in hand with our visual scheduler. The visual scheduler is our calendar of what's going on in the day. And what I'll do is I'll just go look at I can look at daily view for today. I can look at multi-day view, which has the week, or I can look at an employee view, which has each employee across the top. I've got there. I could choose a different group of employees if I wanted to. If you recall back to the employee groups and employee maintenance, but let's just say I'm talking about Rob, Ryle, and whoever that is. So what I can do is I can see, okay, for today, go to tomorrow. I got no data in here. I can say, right, Rob is free today at, let's say, 11 a.m. So I can then go and grab my job from over here and drop it over here under Rob at 11 a.m. And I can say, that's great, I think he's going to be there probably for about 2 hours. So I can make that 1 o'clock. I can then go and save that. And then that goes and creates an entry in here in my calendar for Rob against that job number for 11 o'clock. So we go and send that to Rob by whatever means. He comes and says, no, I can't do it, I'm too busy. Fine, no problems. We can move that over to Ryle. So we'll just go and grab our job. Oops, let me just do that again. I grab my job and I drop it over here to Ryle, and we also decide that he can't do it at 11 o'clock, but he can do it at, let's say, 12 o'clock, so we can move it down to there. And Ryle's not as good as Rob, so we're going to give him an extra hour to go and do the job. And so we can adjust it accordingly. If I go and double click to bring up the job, you'll see that it's put the date in here, it's put the start time as 12 o'clock, it's going to take 3 hours. It's assigned to Ryle over here. So it updates the job details. Also on the job, I can then see a new assignments tab has gone blue because I now have an assignment in here, which is the fact that Ryle needs to go at this particular time to work on this job. If he has to go back the next day again, maybe it's a 2 or 3 day job, I can then go add multiple assignments against this job for Ryle, or I could put multiple people against this job. I can have, if 2 people need to go to this job, I can then assign 2 people to this particular job. So for example, if we want Ryle and Rob to go to this job, that's no issue. I go and drag that and put that over here. Thought that put that over there. Did I not go and put that over there? Let me try that again. This is 12 to 1:30. This is Rob from 12 to 1:30 on the 17th. Oh, there it is. Don't know. Oh, sorry, it's to 2 o'clock, not to 1:30. So now I've got 2 people assigned to that job. If I come back and look at my job, which is over here, and refresh it, I have multiple assignments on this job. So I can put as many people as I want on the job, over whatever days I want to assign them to. It's fairly flexible as far as that's concerned. So that's our assignments tab. A very nice feature of TSM that not a lot of the products have is the ability to service equipment on jobs. So most other products have 1 job per piece of equipment. We don't have that. We can do that if you want, but we can also have multiple pieces of equipment against this particular job. So I can go and add in here a piece of equipment. It's a whatever. Okay, I'll say it's a test. Sorry about that. Okay, so it has a whatever description. It has a serial number of 1, 2, 3, 4, and I can go and an asset number of, yeah, that's fine, blah, blah, blah. Now let me just go and do that again. Just go add in a piece of equipment, type test. I'm in my development environment, just ignore these pop-ups with a serial number of whatever. I'll save that. And I might also have something else on this particular job. Something else, one of those, whatever that happens to be. Alright, I'm in my development environment here, so this is a debugger that's popping up. We'll edit that out with some other serial number. So I've now got 2 pieces of equipment on this particular job, and for each piece of equipment I have various, information about that. I have the serial number and the asset number for tracking that piece of equipment. I can report by equipment type. I can have my own little job type against each piece of equipment because there's different things I'm doing to each one. Maybe I allocate 1 hour to this one and 2 hours to that one. Maybe I have a special rate just for each piece of equipment, for example, to calculate on the job. For each piece of equipment I can put its own service requested and comments about what I did. I can see warranty information about that piece of equipment. For example, I know it's under warranty or not under warranty. I can have individual checklists against that piece of equipment. So there's my laptop checklist. If you remember, I set up way back when we went through products against the test, there was a laptop checklist there, so those questions automatically come in. I can also, if it's relevant, put counters against that equipment. Not many people use that, but we do have counters. against the piece of equipment. So, for example, they may be servicing a photocopier and they want to log the copy count at the point when they physically go and service it. I've got, of course, a history here of all the service work I've ever done for this piece of equipment, which in my test data I don't have any. And so that's how we add equipment to jobs, how we do services for equipment on jobs. I'll come back to this in more detail when we go through the maintenance contract module. So we're now going to come into our job details, and we've now, skipping the fact that we have mobility solutions in the field and all that sort of stuff, we're going to go and complete the job. So we're going to put in what we did. We replaced the fuse. So that's a description that will go on the invoice of the job. I may have some time that we spent on this particular job, and I'll come back into this in a bit more detail for you as well. But Ryle basically worked from 11 o'clock to 11:30, for example, at our standard hourly rate. And we'll go and save that. And there's a lot more detail there I'll come back to. I don't want to. So we can put our timesheets on there. We can add whatever parts that we happen to use on the job. I don't know if we've got any fuses in our database, but it doesn't matter. We'll just use it anyway. It's a fuse, 12 amp fuse. So we can use temporary parts if we want that aren't in the parts database. Setup permitting, of course. And we don't have any locations for that, and that cost us, let's say, $1, something stupid like that. So I've now put my parts against the job, I've put my time against the job, I've said what we're going to do. The only real thing left to do is go to our invoicing tab. We're going to now go and complete the job, and we know the job is completed by the fact that it has a date in the completed date field. I'm still in the debugger at the moment. So it puts a date here into the completed date field, so that job is now finished, and I can now go and create an invoice to the customer. It takes a snapshot of the invoice and stores it in my linked documents tab over here for me, and then I can go and launch and view that invoice. So there's my invoice there. So that's pretty much a standard flow of creating the job, somehow assigning it to someone to do the work. They get that job somehow, whether it's through on their mobility device, it just appears, or whether we email them the job or print them out pieces of paper or text, SMS message it to them, or whatever method we use to get into the job. They go and update their jobs with what they did, their parts, their labour. Obviously with mobility we can capture signatures and do all that sort of stuff. We then go and complete the job and raise an invoice against that particular job. So that's kind of the standard service job processing process. Okay, but there is a lot more detail to jobs than that. I'll just stop that now.